When loading the earth, please do 45 centimeters or 1.5 foot from each side and alternate. Do not load the vault only from one side. It will bulge out due to the pliability of the wood and will not be safe. When we got to about 2 meters high, we saw that the top needed to be loaded with more pressure. Thus we added the subsoil on the top before proceeding loading the sides. At that time, due to the bulge, we inserted an additional support column under the front arch that I will discuss just now. The clay lock went straight onto the bitumen membrane, and on top we loaded a 2 to 3 inches of earth first before applying the. Once the clay lock was done, all around we continued loading the sides with turf, alternating 2 rows on the left and 2 rows on the right, and so on. When digging the turf pieces from the site where the home will be in place, try and carry them slightly away from where the berm will be. Because these turfs were placed upside down right next to the edges of the hole, we had to excavate them out, and they already started to rot under the weight of the clay above. Don't underestimate the duration that something on the construction site will be left at one spot for. When my friend started digging the turfs, he thought he would finish the home super soon, and thus the upside down turfs would be all good by the time he needed them. We only ended up using them 6 months later. Thus said, the turfs should be removed and stacked neatly nearby for future use. This should be done at least 3 meters or 9 feet away from the hole or future walls. Additional turfs are got by making a terrace or dam wall in a smiley moon shape. Some of the excess clay that was dug out and dumped in the front of the house went up onto the roof under the clay lock. The excess was dumped, creating a terrace dam wall. I was dumping it trying to keep the wall level. This was the fastest way to get rid of a large amount of subsoil and clay. Remember that we first remove the turfs. Never pile clay above the topsoil. For dams, clay must lock on clay. That way they will not leak. I rolled my wheelbarrow down fully loaded, but even as it was so strong, the frame that held an axle still bent. Collie repaired it with a welder.
So there is a step in the board. It needs to be in line so that wheelbarrow rolls over it.
Don't throw your wheelbarrow loaded with heavy soil. Back to the finished turfs on the clay lock. One could sprinkle some compost and additional topsoil with various easy-growing indigenous seeds to boost the process of beautifying the hobbit roof. This finishes the roofing process. The glass facade and door can only be installed once the earth is loaded. Because this is a wooden vault, they are subject to slight shifting, which glass cannot accommodate. The glass facade. The placement of glass facade started by building a wall that the glass facade will eventually be mounted on. As said previously, and especially for the front and back wall of the vault, these walls can be made of any material as they are not load-bearing, and nothing is exerting sideways pressure like the wall is doing on the side walls. The side pressure is also called lateral force. This material for the front wall could be an aircrete mix, hempcrete, earth bag, ties, logs, clay, and standard bricks. For this method we used the logs that we ramped up using ropes and metal digging rods as shown in the video. Once we got it to the right place, we hung the log up and marked the cutout part with a pencil. After that, we turned the log around so we could cut that piece out, and then we gently slid the pole so the cutout part fitted snug to the upright column. Whatever the shape of your upright column is, the cutout shape from the front log should closely match it for snug fit. Remember, if something is not perfect, there is always foam. Also, try not to cut more than 1/3 of the log as it will jeopardize its strength. If you're planning to use something rigid for the front wall, this should go first, and the column should be mounted with socket on it that connected with long 20 cm 8-inch nails to the wall. If you're planning to use solid walls such as ties or super adobe or anything else that's super strong, you could build that wall first and then place the upright column supporting the top of the arch afterwards. For this front wall, the plastic was lined along the entire surface of the wall where the logs got into contact with the soil. The plastic got tucked over to the top log under the long, large wooden slab that made up the windowsill part that received the glass facade. This plastic made sure that the front logs will stay dry should any water seep in from the front. Please ensure that you either install a French drain for super wet conditions and you have a slight angle diverting the water away from the front wall. This is a must. The French drain will force any water that's sitting in the compacted soil towards the French drain due to the large air spaces between the gravel stones. As we build up the logs, we stomp the earth behind them so that they do not fall outwards. When stomping, take care not to rip the plastic. One should lay any electrical or plumbing pipes as per your plan when you do the infill between the walls and the earth. For example, if this were to be a kitchen on the northern wall, as the northern wall is the sunniest, then you might want to have a sink there to enjoy looking outwards. In my case, I just wanted a large table to enjoy the view. With regards to plumbing pipes and electrical, it all depends on your building regulations and of course your climate. You could run your pipes on the outside, which they do in South Africa, and it's not a problem. But in cold climate, the water freezes in winter. But of course, keep in mind, if you just have the grey water at a slight angle, then it should be fine. Building with logs is a creative process. If something is not enough, you add, like we had to place a block of wood. Otherwise, you subtract with a wood chisel, chainsaw, or wooden saw. With natural building, this is perfect, as things don't always match, as we're not working with laser precision. The logs are big on one end and small on the other end, and they're not equal in diameter to the previous logs we used. We also placed the plastic to protect the edges above. Once the top log was in place, we measured the level about 2 to 3 inches below the lowest point of the log and marked a line all the way to the other side. It was then pre-cut in the following way to receive the windowsill wooden slab. As logs are not level or flat, this level flat surface made a perfect connection point for the flat part of the windowsill slab. Please note, if you have a flat large piece of timber, you could use that as your windowsill and mount your glass on top of it. Once again, we worked with what we could find. On the side, we needed to place something to tidy up the corner. We shaped up the offcut from the rectangular column for this job. Vasya used a chainsaw and an axe to do the task. I assure you that you can get all of this done if you try. None of it was too difficult, and the whole process I will be able to repeat in my own home build. Everything is logical and makes perfect sense. I'm positive you will be able to do the same. The top windowsill wood slab. I got this wood slab back at the same place where I got the ones for the back. I scratched around in a pile of massive ones and found a piece that was close to 6 meters or 18 feet long. The security guard assisted me in loading it on top of my car, and I delivered it to the road that was by now turned into porridge due to my daily driving on it. We transferred it to a trailer and got it to the building site. First, we placed it on top of the pre-cut log and marked out a straight line in the center. This line was our guide, up to which point to cut out pieces to accommodate the rectangular columns. We did the line at this place because it just sat nicely there. Most of our actions were just using common sense. The cutouts were made on the edge and got a corner shaped out to accommodate the door column. We then removed it and placed some foam before placing the windowsill wood slab back. This is done so that the cold wind does not get through the gaps. And for insulation properties, 3 to 4 20cm or 8-inch nails did the job of mounting it solid down on top log that made up the front wall. Any other gaps were also filled up with foam. The next day, my friend, who is a professional carpenter, came and did a nice cutout trench for the glass. This was first marked out with 2 parallel lines, 5 mm bigger than the thickness of triple pane glass. This had to be level and nice-ish. I think this was the most difficult part of the whole build. I have recorded a few good shots so you and I could replicate this in the future. The reason for the ish part is that it is hard to make something perfect with a chainsaw. Afterwards, we used a wooden chisel to clean up the bottom part so it does not have bumps. I was quite pedantic about this as the glass we were placing did not have frames, and any big bumps will and could crack the glass as they would apply pressure on one small point. The foam grey insulation went in, and this foam insulation did all the magic as it created the perfect bedding and removed irregularities to receive the glass wall. Just before I left, I utilized a large 240 by 120 centimeter or 8 by 4 foot piece of plywood. I drew a middle line to get more or less the bearing of where the middle would be and stood there on top of it, drawing in mid-air how I would want the counter to be, and then I transferred these lines into the main piece of plywood. The other half worked really well and fitted in nicely. The offcut also fitted on the opposite side. Thus, one piece of plywood gave me a stunning 5 meter or 15 foot table. I would recommend to use 15 millimeter thickness for this. I will do a lesson in the future on how I make curvy shelves and tables from plywood. This brings me to the end of this construction process. With regards to finishing touches that I did not do, this is what I recommend. 1. Cover the roof timber planks from underneath with plywood or metal flashing. 2. Cover the front arch that collet protected with insulation foam with plywood by using a cardboard stencil. 3. Make a metal flashing for the outer part of the windowsill as it is really low down and water will splash until something is planted there. Also, snow will constantly lie on it. 4. Extend a piece of plastic from underneath the windowsill, which we started doing, about 2 to 3 feet outwards away from the front glass facade. Remember to have that angle to channel the water away. This will channel the surface rainwater to the same French drain that pulls the groundwater away from front of the house. 5. And of course, major change in the air intake without any up and down kinks. I hope you enjoyed the Siberian build. I look forward to be sharing with you my next lesson.